Overwatch 2's launch has been riddled with controversy. Not only has the game been criticized for being too similar to the first installment, but even the authentication system is completely broken. In fact, some people have even classified it as the worst multiplayer launch of all time. In this video, we're going to talk about the hero shooter's botched launch and the developer's apology, so let's dive straight into it. First off, long queues plague Overwatch 2's launch. If you told anyone 5 years ago that Overwatch would be dead in 2022, they would have scoffed at you. After all, Blizzard's hero shooter was the biggest thing on the planet at one point, and with the esports side of things also dominating, the game was almost too big to fail. But fast forward to the modern day, and the franchise is basically being resuscitated into a space that's already been reclaimed by the likes of Fortnite. That said, the nostalgia that people had for the good old days of Overwatch was more than enough to get people hyped again. So on launch day, the devs saw a massive influx of players trying to join. As a matter of fact, the number of people trying to get into the servers was so high that Blizzard didn't have enough server space to accommodate them. As a result, we saw what can only be described as the longest queues in the history of mankind. Seriously though, if you tried to jump into the game on launch day, you probably deserve some compensation, cause it was a truly harrowing experience. We're talking over 40,000 people, all waiting in line to get into a single match. What's more, even that entire system was broken, cause sometimes even waiting for hours wasn't enough, and instead, the game would just decide to send you back to the start and make you wait for a couple more hours. Up next, DDoS attacks contributed to the botched launch. The launch experience for Overwatch 2 was already miserable enough, but to make matters worse, angry hackers also thought it'd be a good idea to bog down the game even further. So they did the worst thing possible, launched DDoS attacks on the servers. And this meant that after getting through the lengthy queue and waiting for hours on end, players would run into a connection error. Of course, this isn't Blizzard's first rodeo with such attacks. In fact, most of their World of Warcraft expansions have faced these attacks. Oh, and it's gotten pretty serious over the past as well. For instance, a DDoS attacker who targeted WoW in 2010 was caught and eventually sentenced to prison for knocking the MMO offline. That said, it's a bit surprising to see a dev of this size not have any sort of robust protection against these things. After all, they're supposed to be the masters of live service games. Interestingly enough, even Blizzard president Mike Ybarra had little to say about it, and all he did was tweet out a confirmation that yes, an attack was indeed the root cause of these connection issues. Now, if you don't know, DDoS means distributed denial of service. You can kind of think of it like someone sending a bunch of trucks and jamming the entire freeway with them. Then again, it's not a new thing and has been around for decades, so it's weird to think that the dev didn't have any major protection against it. Not to mention Battle.net's security problems. The funny thing is that the DDoS attacks weren't the only issue with the Overwatch 2's launch. Like, sure, they were bad and were stopping players from jumping into a match. But you know what's worse? Not even having access to your own account. No, we're not joking. Blizzard introduced a new security system that required players to enter their phone numbers while logging in. And of course, everyone who tried to make a new account had to go through these motions as well. Now, this doesn't sound that egregious, especially if you hear the reasoning behind it. That being said, it was the implementation turned this little thing into a total fiasco. We mean, even those players who had working phone numbers weren't being recognized by the Battle.net system. Why, you ask? Well, apparently, Blizzard's system wasn't wired to work with prepaid phone numbers from most countries. So if you weren't on an expensive post-paid plan, you couldn't even sign up for the launcher. And that was enough for a ton of people to turn their backs on the franchise. After all, there are only so many screw-ups that you can afford. Besides, with so many other FPS options on the market, it doesn't take a lot for players to find something else to play. So these mistakes kinda doomed Overwatch 2 before it even got off the ground. Coming up, Blizzard rolls back the security requirements. Alright, so with everything doom and gloom in the world of Overwatch 2, something had to be done. Like, it's insane to botch the launch of such a storied franchise in the first place. So there weren't really any doubts about Blizzard going hard at the problems and rooting them out from their core. Well, at least that's what we thought. Instead, they slapped a bandage on top of everything and called it a day. For real though, the dev made the slightest of changes to the phone number security requirements. And now, any old account that's been active for a significant amount of time can log in without needing that extra step. Of course, that makes the game less secure, as people can just hop into extra accounts and smurf their way to the top. At the same time, there's gotta be a better system for protecting yourself against hackers and smurfs. Also, let's not forget that cheating has been a massive issue for Overwatch in the past. In fact, even now, if you hop into a game on PC, you're pretty likely to run into someone using an aimbot or some sort of hack. Then again, you could say that about literally any other game. And for now, the only legitimate solution seems to be Valorant's Riot Guard, which goes into the operating system's kernel to block malicious software. Having said that, even that fix has its pretty significant drawbacks, including obviously the possibility of Riot snooping in and a massive dip in performance. What's more, Blizzard apologizes for the failed launch. It's not very often that we see a company like Blizzard come clean about its issues, but ever since the whole controversy with toxic workplace conditions, they've turned a new leaf and now are more proactive than ever. Of course, this extends to the community as well, so the dev came out and clarified its position in a statement published on official forums. The company said that firstly, it wants to apologize to its players. While it's obviously frustrating from a user's point of view, they just didn't expect things to go the way they did. That said, Blizzard still admitted that it didn't keep the standards that it upheld as a AAA developer for all these years, and that it would definitely be a learning experience. Not only that, but they also committed to working on these issues in the long run to make Overwatch 2 the experience that it deserves to be. And to be fair to them, things have massively improved since the launch, and they've continued to push out patches and iron out the annoying bugs. For instance, during the first week, playing ranked matches would result in players getting an entirely wrong placement, like even professionals who were supposed to be ranked Diamond 1 were being placed in silver ranks. Thankfully though, all those issues seem to be a thing of the past now, and Overwatch 2 has turned into a smooth experience. Finally, is Overwatch 2 a worthy sequel? Now, a lot can be said about Overwatch 2's launch issues, but you've got to admit, apart from the servers, pretty much all else has been super tight. Like everything from the gameplay loop to the hero balancing is top-notch, and you can definitely say that even in 2022, Overwatch continues to be a definitive hero shooter experience. Of course, it's still building upon all the things that made the first game so great, but at the same time, the shift from 6v6 to 5v5 formats has been an absolute godsend. Seriously, you kind of forget just how grindy the encounters felt as you tried to whittle down two tanks with massive health bars. With the new formula though, the action flows incredibly well, and each individual battle feels like it can swing both ways. Plus, there's less responsibility on each team member, making the game much more accessible for newcomers. In fact, even if someone on your team is just trolling or not playing well, there's still a pretty good chance of winning the match if the rest of your squad gels together. Oh, and if that doesn't happen, it's still great, cause the match ends with a heartbeat, meaning that you can start that loop all over again. What do you think though? Has Overwatch 2's botched launch soured the experience for you? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you at the next one.